This attack was not just against ourselves or the Republic of Korea. This was the Soviet Union against the world and the moral precepts which guide human relations among people everywhere. It was an act of barbarism, born of a society which wantonly disregards individual rights and the value of human life and seeks constantly to expand and dominate other nations.
We will continue to make clear that as Russia engages in efforts that are supporting the separatists, that we have the capacity to increase the costs that we impose on them. And we will do so. We don't see a U.S. military role beyond what we've already been doing in working with our NATO partners and some of the Baltic states, giving them reassurances that we are prepared to do whatever is required.
All right, you got two very different men responding in the same act, shooting down a civilian airliner, two very different ways. In Washington tonight, we welcome Jane Hampton Cook, a prominent presidential historian, author of the new book, American Phoenix. So, Jane, is one style the other more effective, different strokes, different folks? What do you think?
Well, with Ronald Reagan, he used very strong rhetoric, and you saw very mild rhetoric coming out of President Obama. And you know, Reagan used terms like massacre 3 times. He really put the onus on the Soviets. He called for the Soviets to apologize, to make reparations. So there are some things that President Obama can do here in the next few days that would be stronger than what he's done so far.
So why is he so laid back? Is he a constitutional scholar adrift in a sea of thugs, as Fouad Jami said, the late commentator? I mean, is that what it is? Is he naive? Is he disconnected? Or is he just a different style guy?
It could be all of the above in many ways. It's hard to know exactly, but you've got to look at the end game. What was Reagan's end game in 1983 with the Soviet Union? He was trying to get them to negotiate a nuclear weapons reduction treaty and ultimately dismantle the Soviet Union. What is President Obama's end game with Russia right now? He says it's to have a ceasefire in Ukraine, but it's not to remove Russia from Crimea. So it's a very different, mild end game, and I think that really distinguishes the two presidents maybe more than anything else.
But I mean, because the times are so different, and when we were up against the Soviet monolith, the world was very clear-cut. It was us against them. It was the Cold War. Now things seem so muddled. Is this a president for the age of the muddled?
Well, that's the way he's framed it, is that it's muddled. I don't know, how muddled it really is. And yes, you're exactly right. We are in a different place. Russia's in a different place than it was in the 80s. We're not in the same Cold War mentality, but it feels like we're creeping more and more toward that end. And, there are some things that the signals that the president sends, sending pink slips to members of our U.S. military, things like that, that show that we are, retreating in our strength and in our defensive mechanisms. And that sends a message, I think, to Putin that he takes advantage of.
Jane Hampton Cook, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.